Hi buddy, today I want to demonstrate to you how to make a plate with not a potter's wheel, hopefully just a few simple tools to help us along. What we're going to need to do that, everyone's favorite Chinette paper plates. The reason we're going to use these are they don't have a coating like plastic of any kind, so that the clay will not stick to this as we drape our clay in it. We get a lump of clay about this size. This is way more than we need, but you'll see that we're going to make a slab bigger than we need, and we're going to cut a disc out in the shape of a plate. Okay, so kind of like a pizza, we're just going to throw it. Okay, make sure your surface is super clean, and as you see, it starts to thin out, right? That's nice. And what we're looking for is a thickness between probably about 5/8 or so thick. You do not want to make it too thin because you get a potato chip and it'll warp like crazy. Yeah, 3/8, okay, I'm dilly-dallying around. As you can see, the edge is getting super thin, but we're not going to use that part, so not to worry. But that thing, when we are throwing our disc, if the surface you've started to use gets wet, you got to move over to another area because your clay will stick to that. And you can see that just leaving my clay in here for just a little bit really got wet, right? I'm doing this throwing thing, particularly if you don't have a rolling pin or a nice clean round bottle to roll this out. This will work pretty good, okay? Again, we don't want too thick, 1/2 inch, way too thick, 1/4 inch, way too thin, and so here we go. I'm getting pretty close to that. I've got some boards that I use when it becomes a little wet like that. Where's my Chinette? Yeah. Thankfully, I don't think these are made in China. Just state-of-the-art, like China, you know, porcelain. Okay, flip your paper plate over. Using your needle tool, you're going to trace a line around it, and you want to go perpendicular. You don't want to go at an angle. And you may have to walk around this. Unless you have a lazy John sitting around somewhere that'll help you spin it a little bit. Okay, so got to cut. Remove your excess. Save it though for other projects, right? Now, we have to get it off of here. And it's probably stuck a little bit, and you may have to use your rib along the edge just to loosen it up just a little. You do not want to pick it up in a vigorous manner because you will be warping it. And we don't want that. Now, using your rib, go over this, and hopefully you didn't pick up any crap from your work surface. If you did, clean it off. If you end up with an air bubble, because, you know, maybe your assistant didn't wedge your clay properly, go ahead and give it the stabby treatment. Okay, This is going to be the bottom of our plate. And as such, before you go flipping it, sign it already. Don't make it a real hard, heavy push through, because you may be able to see that when you flip it over. I have a stamp, and I'm just going to give it a little stamp. And then I'm going to see if I can flip it over. So it's a little stuck. It's okay. Let's see, he'll go get it. Okay. So here's our disc, right? And we're good to go. We need to push this clay down into our disc or our plate. And I have these little cloth things. I put this on top of here and gently start to push down. What I'm trying to avoid is a million little grubby fingerprints all over our plate, okay? And I'm pulling on the fabric so I don't get creases. If you get creases, you can easily use your rib, smooth them out on the next step, okay? And it's very likely, it's very easy to get that crease going in there. And you don't want to try and push this in all at once, one go around, done. Take your time, start in the middle, work your way out to the rim. You can feel it when it settles onto the surface of the plate. I would get the widest china you can at the grocery store. Look in your picnic supplies aisle of your grocery store. They should have them there, ubiquitous. They're the best kind anyway. Chinettes are great because you can put a lot of food on them and they don't collapse in your lap. That's nice. We're going to have something better in chinettes when we're done, though. We're going to have some plates. And last week you probably made your cups. Very good. And we're going to try and make a bowl. So guess what? Take this little class, you're going to get a dinner set out of it. Awesome. Well, we'll see. Okay. Now I'm still going to go over this. Okay, so when you have a good definition of the plate, use your rib to flatten that rim out just a bit. Now, you can see how rough the edge of that plate is. I do not like that, but we're going to try and deal with that later. Right now, we're just going to try and smooth it as best we can. We're going to leave this overnight to firm up before we clean it up tomorrow as it approaches leather hard. Leather hard is a state of clay, and that's more like cream cheese, right? Nope, not cream cheese. What? Cheddar cheese. Cheddar cheese. Cheese. Cream cheese would be way too soft, right? States of clay are just like cheese. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside for tomorrow. And this one I made yesterday, okay? So what I did is I banded it and I pushed in a little cedar bough. Because we're not in the studio at this time, we don't have access to some chemicals that would help us stain that, but if you push it in, it should, when you glaze it, there'll be an imprint there if you want. This is just an idea. You don't have to do this, but hopefully you'll find something where you live that you may want to push on here, okay? So whenever I'm flipping these plates, I never try and grab it by the rim, okay? If I try and grab this by the rim, it's going to warp real badly. And so to avoid that, go like this. We want to clean up the bottom of this rim. And I'll start with my rib. We don't want, you can see these little scumbles. I think the technical term is scoobies. We don't want any scoobies on there because once we glaze them, they'll be sharp as heck. Not good in a plate. Okay. Now, you may get anomalies here, like I've got one going on right there, and just do your best. You know, it's kind of a cliche. Oh yeah, it's handmade. It's supposed to have lots of defects, but you want to limit that. Okay. And then I'm going to take just a sponge and I'll start. Don't flood the darn thing with water, but just enough. And I'm only working on the rim. It cleans up pretty good. It's really important to remember to sign your work so you can find it later. There's going to be a bunch of people making these plates. They're all going to look alike unless you decorate them in some way. And how are you going to tell which one's yours? I don't know. So you sign them. Okay. The other nice thing is this sponge treatment is softening that rim just a little bit, which helps us a lot in terms of giving us a round edge. Okay, so now I'm going to put it back on my plate. Make sure you haven't gathered any dreaded scoobies. Okay, so now I'm going to go around the top edge and kind of using I want to round that edge a little bit before I give it its final treatment. And I've been toying with some ideas on how to finish this in a little more elegant way. I'll show you what we have come up with, my assistants and I, and you can try. So I got a couple things here. Shell from the beach, not a bad activity on a day, right? Or how about a pencil sharpener? Not quite as cool, but it makes a good mark, right? So start somewhere and roll it, okay? If you botch it, like I just did a little bit there, you can't go back. If you go back over it again, it'll make it all real messy. So it's, you know, it's all good until it isn't. And so what I'm doing is I'm kind of just rolling it, but I'm putting some downward pressure on it. Okay? If you put this plate somewhere to dry overnight that's really hot and warm, your clay will be too firm to do this. Oh, dang. Now hopefully, if you don't like what I'm doing here, you can find something where you live that you can use to texture. When this is has dried out, we will clean up any sharp little bits here before you bring it back down to the school for bisque firing. Okay. Quirky, but hey, so am I. So there we go. And I think there's been some debate about this. You could leave it in like this, in your trying to play till it dries, or you could dry it upside down too, like this. Now we're going to want 2 of these. I'm going to have you're going to have a picture of, you're going to send me a picture of one of them, your best one. So I'm going to have you make a couple. So if one doesn't turn out, you'll be able to still comply. If you send me a plate that's all mangled, I won't give you any points. I'll ask you to do it again, okay? So there you go. Have fun, and I'll see you next time.